These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
This is Dave. Dave doesn't know his home's flood zone and was not able to heed flood warnings. Dave and his home are soaked. This is Noah. Noah is an informed citizen. He was warned in advance about potential flooding in his area. Noah took precautions. Noah is dry.
And I saved the animals too.
Good job, Noah. When it comes to flood warnings, be like Noah, not like Dave. For more information, visit hcfl.gov.net. Be safe, be informed, know your flood zone.
Psst, hey, would you do me a favor? Grab your phone or smart device and open up that camera. Then point it right here at the QR code. Do you have it? I'll wait a second. When you see the link pop up on your screen, give it a tap. You ready? Boom! Welcome to the Hillsborough County official YouTube channel. We've got all sorts of videos here, all about what makes our community such an awesome place. From local events and community highlights to what's in the perfect Cuban sandwich. We've got it all. We're always adding new things, so while you're here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. Here's that QR code again, just in case you missed it. Go ahead and check it out. Ooh. This must have fallen out of that video. This really is the perfect Cuban sandwich.
Hey, the new house looks great. How are you liking it here?
Well,
You wouldn't expect this in your home.
What?
Why on earth would you do it in ours? Hillsborough County put waste in its place.
Good evening and welcome to the August 21st, 2023 Zoning Hearing Master Meeting.
I'm Pamela Jo Hatley. I'll be your zoning hearing master this evening. Before we get started, please stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Welcome again to the August 21st, 2023 Zoning Hearing Master Meeting. I'm Pamela Jo Hatley. If you have any items on you tonight that make noise, would you please silence those at this time? And we'll first hear from Michelle Heinrich with Hillsborough County Development Services Department, who will introduce staff and any agenda changes.
Good evening, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. We also have with us to my left is Mary Dorman with the County Attorney's Office, and with the Planning Commission we have Bryce Farringer. And the changes to the agenda that I needed to go over starts with agenda page 6, item C1, rezoning 23-0082. The staff has requested a continuance of this application to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Agenda page 7, item C5, rezoning 23-0640. Staff is requesting a continuance to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Agenda page 7, item D1, Major Mod 22-0671. This is to make a correction on the agenda for the future land use, which is R6 and R9. And lastly, agenda page 8, item D3, Major Mod 22-1638. This application is being withdrawn from the ZHM process.
All right, thank you. And so those first two are continued. We don't need to hear from, from the applicants. Okay. Do we want to go ahead then, if you would please, and read in the published withdrawals and continuances?
Sure. Item A1, Major Mod 22-1543. This application is being withdrawn by the zoning administrator in accordance with LDC section 10.03.02.C2. Item A2, PD 23-0059. This application is being continued by the applicant to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A3, PD 23-0109. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A4, PD 23-0153. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A5, Major Mod Application 23-0281. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A6, PD 0287. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A7, PD 23-0369. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A8, PD 23-0406. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the October 16th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A9, Major Mod Application 23-0407. This application is being continued by staff to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A10, Major Mod 23-0414. This application is being continued by the applicant to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A11, PD 23-0472. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A12, PD 23-0516. This application is being withdrawn from the ZHM process. Item A13, PD 23-0517. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A14, Major Mod 23-0518. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A15, PD 23-0519. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A16, Major Mod 23-0520. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A17, PD 23-0522. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A18, Standard Rezoning 23-0552. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A19, Standard Rezoning 23-0573. This application is being continued by staff to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A20, Major Mod 23-0578. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A21, Standard Rezoning 23-0588. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A22, Standard Rezoning 23-0611. This application is being withdrawn from the ZHM process. Item A22, Standard Rezoning 23-0714. This application is being continued by the applicant to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A24, Standard Rezoning 23-0729. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the September 18th, 2023 ZHM hearing. And that concludes the continuances.
Thank you so much. All right. The agenda for the meeting tonight consists of items that require a public hearing by a hearing master before going to the Board of County Commissioners for final decision. I will conduct a hearing on each item today and will submit a written recommendation. My written recommendation will be filed with the clerk of the board within 15 working days after the conclusion of today's public hearings. The Board of County Commissioners will consider the record of today's public hearing and my recommendation and will make the final decision on each application at a publicly noticed meeting on a date and time set by the Board of County Commissioners. The hearings today will be informal. I will ask questions related to the scope of direct testimony and may call and question witnesses as I deem appropriate. I will decide all questions of procedure. I will take evidence, but will exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in written form, and all testimony shall be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding of fact unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil court action. The order of presentation today will be as follows. First, the county staff will introduce each item. Then the applicant and the applicant's witnesses will have 15 minutes to present the proposal. County Development Services will have 5 minutes to present findings and recommendations. The Planning Commission will have 5 minutes to present findings of compliance or non-compliance with the comprehensive plan. Proponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments in support of the proposal. Opponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments against the proposal. And then county staff will have 5 minutes to present any amended recommendations. The applicant will then have 5 minutes for any rebuttal or summation. The 15 minutes for proponents and opponents is the total time allotted among them. So if there are a number of persons who wish to speak, the 15 minutes will be distributed among those persons. If there are a number of persons who wish to speak on an item, you may designate a single spokesperson to represent your views if you wish. When you come to the microphone, Please first state your name and address for the record. This meeting is being recorded, so please speak into the microphone so your testimony can be recorded. When you're finished speaking, please see the clerk to sign in for the record. The clerk is here to my left. Okay. And now we'll hear from the county attorney's office, who'll state the legal requirements for requesting oral argument at the public meeting where the board will make a final decision on each item.
Okay. Mary Dorman from the county attorney's office. Tonight's public hearing is the first step of a two-step rezoning process. This hearing is the time for rezoning applicants and interested parties to present testimony and evidence. Any evidence presented tonight will become the complete factual record of each application, and no additional evidence can be introduced after the closing of each application. The second step of the rezoning process is a public meeting before the Board of County Commissioners, where the board will make a decision on each application heard tonight. Tonight's applications are scheduled to be heard by the board at its October 10th, 2023 land use meeting. When considering applications, the board will only review the record created at tonight's hearing and the recommendation made by the land use hearing officer for each application. The land use hearing officer will file a recommendation for each application heard tonight by September 12th, 2023. The Board of County Commissioners has established a policy that directs which rezoning and major modification applications are to be placed on the consent agenda of the board's land use meeting. Applications that propose to add density outside the urban service area, applications that are on roadways with a failing level of service, and applications that have had evidence or testimony provided to the record by non-applicant parties of record, either prior to or at the public hearing tonight, are not qualified for placement on the consent agenda. Applications which do not have consistent recommendations of approval or denial are also not qualified to be placed on the consent agenda. The board shall allow public testimony by parties of record at its meeting to consider the land use hearing officer's recommendation for any item on the regular agenda. Any public testimony shall be limited to the record of the proceedings before the land use hearing officer unless additional evidence has been found admissible in accordance with Section 10.03.04D of the Land Development Code. A party of record is an individual who fits into at least one of the four categories. First, an individual who is present tonight and presents testimony or documentary evidence. Second, an individual certified by the U.S. Postal Service as having been mailed notice of tonight's hearing. Third, an individual who submitted documentary evidence to the master file at least 2 business days prior to tonight's hearing. Or fourth, an individual who submitted documentary evidence by proxy at tonight's hearing. Again, the oral argument before the board shall be limited to the content of the testimony and other evidence submitted verbally or in writing to the land use hearing officer tonight. It is the role of the county attorney's office to ensure that only individuals who have met these requirements are allowed to speak before the board and to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is introduced or allowed at the board's public meeting. For these reasons, please make sure that all information you wish the board to consider at its public meeting is entered into tonight's record.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dorman. All right, all testimony tonight must be under oath. So if you plan to speak, please stand and raise your hand to be sworn in. If there are any online who plan to speak tonight, please also raise your hand to be sworn in. All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, I believe we're ready to hear the first case. Thank you.
Sure. Being as C1 was continued, our first case is item C2. This is standard rezoning 23-0324. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from RSC 6 to RDC 12. Camille Crocta with Development Services will present staff findings after the applicant.
Hello.
Hello?
This is my first time, so I don't know.
That's fine.
Sorry.
Just state your name and address first, please,
Okay.
and then explain what you're requesting.
Okay. So my legal name is Cristobal Bonafé. Call me Chris. And my address is 8427 North Manhattan Avenue, 33614, Tampa, Florida. Basically, I'm trying to do rezoning. This is the house that I purchased for my wife, my ex-wife, and my kids, and just trying to be able to, so they can afford the house, make it RZSTD 20. Sorry, the RDC 12. Sorry, so they can set it up. We can set it up and legally rent it, so we can do it with the mortgage for the house.
Okay, so you're requesting a rezoning to RDC 12, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then the purpose of the rezoning, what are you planning to do with the house?
Rent it. So the house, my ex-wife lives it, but we're just trying to do a side of the house so she can rent it and we can, afford the house for her and for my kids.
Okay, so your plan is to divide the house into 2 units, is
Yeah,
that correct?
Correct, yes. We like to do it the proper way. Yeah.
Okay. And no PD variations, no waivers. All right, anything else you wish to add?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Sorry.
All right, I need you to sign in with the clerk here.
Yes.
Thank you. And we'll hear from Development Services.
Good evening, Camille Crocta, Development Services. The applicant is requesting to rezone 1.20 acre parcel zoned RSC 6, single-family conventional, to residential duplex conventional, to allow the reconfiguration of an existing single-family residence to accommodate the duplex. The subject property is located south of West Humphrey Street and east of North Manhattan Avenue, and is adjacent to similar use residential, single and multifamily zoning districts. The site will comply with all and conform to all other applicable policies and regulations. I did want to note that the parcel is currently within the urban service area, but it's on septic currently and may require connection to county sewer. There are no other restrictions or objections from any other agencies. And based on the stated considerations, including the existing development pattern, staff finds the request approvable. And this concludes my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Don't have any questions for you. Thank you so much. Planning Commission?
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. Bryce Faringer with Planning Commission staff. This is 23-0324. The subject property is in the Residential 12 future land use category. It is in the urban service area and is not located within the limits of a community plan. Res 12 surrounds the subject site. To the southwest is Residential 20. Further south are the light industrial, public, quasi-public, and the Residential 9 future land use categories. The proposed request is consistent with Objective 1 in Policy 1.4 of the future land use element. Policy 1.4 specifically requires all new developments to be compatible with the surrounding area. The subject site is currently zoned as RSC 6. The applicant is proposing to rezone the subject site to RDC 12 to allow for 2 dwelling units on the site. The proposed change is compatible with the existing character development of the area, as there are currently multifamily and 2-family properties in the surrounding area. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of the neighborhood protection policies of future land use element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies. The development pattern of the surrounding area is mostly residential. There is also vacant land, 2-family, multifamily, and HOA common property uses interspersed throughout. A rezoning to RDC 12 would reflect a development pattern that is in accordance with the existing development pattern, because it's consistent with the policy direction of the surrounding area. The community design component in the future land use element also provides guidance on residential developments. Goal 8 encourages the preservation of existing suburban uses as viable residential alternatives to all urban and rural areas. Goal 12 and Objective 12-1 seek to facilitate patterns of development that are both compatible and related to the predominant character of their surroundings. A rezoning to allow a duplex would be consistent with this policy direction. Based upon these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, and I can answer any additional questions that you have.
All right, thank you very much. I have no questions. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Please come forward. State your name and address first.
Yeah, my name is Michael Albers. I reside in 3905 Dora Drive, Tampa, Florida 33634. Yeah, I'm his friend and also a realtor, and I check all around, and I find out that there is a sewer possibility to connect the house into the sewer system, and the house is in very good shape, so there is plenty space to do the duplex, and I guess that it's a good shot.
All right, thank you. And I need you to sign in with the clerk, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else here wish to speak in support of this application? All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. All right, Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. Applicant, did you wish to add anything further? Come to the microphone, please. And just yes or no if you wish to add anything further.
No, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on rezoning standard 23-0324. Okay.
Our next item is item C3, standard rezoning 23-0593. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from BPO and CI to CI. Jared Folan with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, Your Honor. Brian Ungst, McFarlane, Ferguson, McMullen on behalf of the applicant, Acme Partners, 201 North Franklin Street, Tampa, Florida. This is a simple standard rezoning. Your Honor, 70% of the parcel is currently zoned CI, commercial intensive, while as 30% of it is zoned BPO. And this application is to unify the zonings to allow for a continuation of the parking use on the CI portion of the parcel to the BPO parcel. There are no site modifications or changes to the footprint of the site, simply to expand the available area for parking. This is a 1.77 acre site in the urban service area. It's in the Town and Country Community Plan with a CMU future land use. And again, Your Honor, we're here to answer any questions that you have, but we believe that pursuant to the staff reports that there's abundant legislative rational basis to support the rezoning under the legislative standard. And again, are happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I have no questions for you. Please sign in with the clerk. Thank you. Development Services.
Good evening, Jared Folan with Development Services. This is a request, as you heard, is to rezone a 1.77 acre parcel from business professional office and commercial intensive to commercial intensive. The applicant is seeking this rezoning for the purpose of bringing the property under one zoning district and to be able to utilize parking located in the business professional office zoning district. The current use on the property is permitted in commercial intensive, but is not permitted in business professional office, which is prohibiting the use of the parking. This subject property is located at 4509 George Road and is within the Town and Country Community Plan and the urban service area. The immediate area primarily consists of office, commercial, and light industrial uses, with adjacent zoning districts being manufacturing, special public interest airport districts, and a planned development to the south. This planned development property is developed with an office with a large parking garage. The future land use of the subject property and the surrounding properties west of George Road is all community mixed use. Across George Road lies a large residential neighborhood zoned RSC 6. With the collector roadway acting as a barrier and the property only fronting about 130 feet of the roadway, staff does not have any compatibility concerns. This rezoning request has no restrictions and no agencies have objected to the request. And based on these considerations, staff finds the proposed zoning to commercial intensive to be compatible with the existing development and zoning trends in the surrounding area and finds the request approvable.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission?
Bryce Veringer, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. It's in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the Town and Country Community Plan. The subject site abuts Residential 6 directly to the west, directly to the north, east, and south. The site is surrounded by CMU 12. The area is developed with light commercial uses to the south. Directly to the north and east, there are light industrial uses. The property abuts single-family residential to the west across George Road. Directly northeast, there are heavy commercial and vacant uses. Further north and south of the subject site, there are additional light commercial uses. The proposed change to commercial intensive would encourage development within the urban service area and is compatible with the development pattern of the surrounding area. It is therefore consistent with Objective 1 and Policy 1.4 of the future land use element. The subject site is adjacent to the commercial uses to the south, east, and further north, as well as light industrial uses to the north and east. The subject site does abut single-family residential uses to the west. However, these uses are separated from the site by George Road. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of neighborhood protection policies of the future land use element, Objective 16 and its accompanying policies 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, and 16.5. The proposed use would complement the adjacent commercial and industrial uses. Policy 16.5 of the future land use element states that non-residential land uses that are adjacent to established neighborhoods shall be restricted to collectors and arterials and to be located externally to established neighborhoods. The subject site sits directly along George Road, which is a county collector roadway. Thus, the proposed rezoning is consistent with this objective and its ensuing policies. The subject property is located within the limits of the Town and Country Community Plan. There are no goals or strategies within the Town and Country Community Plan that directly apply to this application, nor are there any policy conflicts. Based upon these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
I only wanted to confirm that you have the revised staff report.
I have the revised staff
Okay,
report.
thank you, nothing further.
Thank you. All right, applicant, anything further?
Thank you, Your Honor. We would just incorporate by reference the staff reports, finding consistency and recommending approval. And again, happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This will close the hearing on rezoning standard 23-0593.
Our next item is C4. This is standard rezoning 23-0636. The applicant is requesting to rezone property currently zoned PD to RSC4. Carol Ann Peddle with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Thank you. All right, is the applicant here or online? This is rezoning 23-0636. Not hearing from the applicant. Shall we skip this one and go to the next one and try to contact the applicant in the meanwhile?
Sure,
All
sure,
right.
no problem.
All right, we'll go to the next case then.
Our next case is item D1, application 22-220671. The applicant requests a major modification to PD 20-0287. Tim Lampkin with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation. And also to note, this is being heard concurrently with a comprehensive plan amendment, which will be heard at the October 12th CPA hearing at 6 p.m., and that is on the staff report.
All right, thank you. Yes, applicant?
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. We have a very complicated case in front of us. I'm going to presume to omit some of the easier stuff unless you need to ask me a question about it and get right to the more difficult stuff. What we have this evening is a currently entitled PD. It has two options presently which are approved. Option A is 60,000 square feet of BPO and CN uses. Option B would be 66 attached townhomes. These are both governed by a trip count in both daily and, pardon me, the excuse me, the term escapes me, the evening and, what's the word I'm thinking of? Daily trips and AM and PM peak trips, pardon me. It is in the urban service area. There's no wetlands on site. The proposal this evening is, as you heard, part of it is there's a comp plan element to take the future land use all the way to R20. We're leaving option A unchanged. Option B only changes in that the townhome count goes to 111 to reflect the new future land use. And we've added an option C, which we are calling a multifamily affordable workforce project. The same transportation trip cap limit carries forward through all three options. So what's entitled right now will cause, well, what we're asking for would cause no more traffic impact than what's entitled right now. Focusing again on option C here, that was not part of our original filing, believe it or not. When we put the property out to market concurrent with the zoning, we actually found a significant amount of interest from affordable housing groups, from the Diocese of St. Petersburg, from Blue Sky, among others. And to that end, that's when we decided to file the CPA and seek the multifamily option. That backfired on us a little bit in that I believe the traditional way to go about these things is to apply for the affordable housing certification before you get in the hopper. We did it retroactively, which proved a little bit difficult, but we did get there. We obtained the affordable housing certification that this is a viable project and it's eligible for the bonus. In this new analysis of the project, we really did shift our focus to focusing on the multifamily product and looking towards the Gibsonton Community Plan and the Comprehensive Plan and the numerous, very direct, very plain statements in there about adding workforce housing and multiple forms of housing in the Gibsonton area, which is really quite limited right now to mobile homes and the smaller single-family lots in the area. We did meet with the concerned citizens of Gibsonton. It was not an unproductive meeting. I'm not sure we have their support, but I've been to a lot worse, quite frankly. And then another thing I want to mention about this project is that we took it upon ourselves to actually contact Hart because there is a roundabout going in right at the intersection of our project, East Bay and Sims. Hart does not currently run a line down to Sims, but we've talked to them about adding a bus stop pad in that roundabout and doing a little service run from the Gibsonton stops down to East Bay, which would obviously service this project very well. Those are some of the intangibles, the benefits to it. I think that covers most of my presentation. I'm going to turn this over to Isabel Albert now, who's going to explain the planning aspect of everything. And ma'am, I do have a handout for you, including conditions that we've worked on with staff, but we're proffering the conditions.
All right. Do you have a copy for the clerk or just a copy for me?
For the clerk, for development services, and for you.
Okay, thank you.
So this, actually, the next presenter is the applicant.
That's okay. We'll get to Isabel here. Good evening, Madam Zoning Hearing Master. My name is Jim Johnson, and I reside at 10925 Hidden Oaks Drive, Brooksville, Florida, 34604. I'm the presenter today as the, let me advance through the slides here. I'm the presenter today as the property owner. And so I wanted to share a little bit with you. We have a very involved zoning. As Billy said, there's a lot of things to cover, and we sort of picked an area for myself to talk about. My wife and I were residents of the area for 18 years, and we have long kind of recognized the need for different types of housing, and we've tried to provide that through some of our rental properties that we have and continue to serve in the area. As Billy mentioned, about 18 months ago, early 2022, we started this initiative where we filed a zoning request. And as we've sort of gone through this journey, one of the things that I guess we spent the balance of 2022 was reaching out to a number of different parties. We reached out to for-profit and nonprofit developers. We reached out to community leaders, government leaders, some of the commissioners. And really what we came back from that effort was that there is really an overwhelming need for really workforce and affordable housing. And so we sort of retrenched at that point, and based on the feedback that we received, you know, and I think I want to highlight some of the key challenges. I think that was really what really came out for us, is not only the need, but why hasn't this community been served in the past? And one of the things, and we phrase it as kind of the harsh economic realities that have been faced with this, that there's ever increasing land and construction costs. Well, that's a challenge probably everywhere, but really that combined with the fact that Gibsonton has been a traditionally lower income community, there has just not been that approach where either for-profit or non-profit developers have come to fulfill that housing need. We also heard the lack of supportive zoning, and so that's sort of what we decided to kind of go after as one means to kind of tackle these harsh economic realities. And really, in general, if you look at the Gibsonton area for the last 20 years, what's been built in Gibsonton is single-family residences. And those residences, unfortunately, for many residents, they can neither afford nor to buy single-family residences. And so there is a critical need for other housing choices, such as apartments. And so when we took a look at that and all that collective feedback, we amended our zoning to include apartments. We also looked at, and this is sort of a post-zoning thing, but I want to sort of get it on the record, is that our work just sort of begins. Zoning is important, but we have a lot of work ahead of us post-zoning where we need to partner, and we're going to seek to do some public-private partnerships and really go after and I think seek some award of grants and other incentives that can help reduce some of those economic reality hardships that we were told about. I also want to let you know that through this process, I've worked closely with Arina Ubain. She is the project manager for the roundabout. I'm actually pleased to announce today that last week she informed me the county will be adding a bus stop as part of the roundabout, which we advocated for and think that goes very well with that whole process. And then as far as the roundabout, Mr. Yates will speak after me, and he'll get into some more details, Madam Zoning Hearing Master, if you have any questions with that. And then also Isabel Albert will address some of the comp plan and Gibsonton community plans that support our effort. I think the last thing I'd like to do, and I'll show up put up a presentation here. I don't know if I'm doing that right. There we go. Let me turn it the other way. I'm just going to highlight this for just a minute, and this will be the last part of my presentation, is project intangibles. If you look at the site that we're talking about, which is right here, we've drawn circles that show a mile distance from the property and also 3/4 of a mile distance from the property. You'll notice that with our property, there's also, you'll notice that there's also a charter school within close proximity, and there's also commercial within close proximity. And I think one of the things to sort of emphasize for you today is that, you know, our project is just not providing sidewalks. We're actually providing and have walkable to destinations near the project. That includes retail, schooling, and employment. And to be recognized, many people who are housing challenged, unfortunately, are also transportation challenged. Their children don't have an opportunity to attend charter schools, and we feel this project also opens up those doors for those individuals. Okay, with that, I'll conclude my presentation and turn it over to Isabel Albert for hers.
Please sign in with the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Isabel Albert, certified planner, 1000 North Ashley Drive. I'm here to just talk a bit more about the policies that you'll find. Jim did an excellent job of how and why we are where we are. Obviously, there's a great need for it, and when they started that project, they looked at this and ended up with this proposal, which is multifamily development. It has probably maximum 199 units. It's located at 2 major intersections. It's very clear near I-75, and it's on Sims Road. And it will be developed with respecting the 2-for-1. They did reduce their height from 65 to 45 feet, and that was in concession with Development Services staff. So this brings me to the Gibsonton Community Plan. From the goal number one, but goal number two is really about the neighborhood and how to revitalize the older section of the Gibsonton and revitalize as well as the mobile home parks in the area. And so what they're proposing is to have, this vacant piece of land that could be developed with commercial, but wanted to develop it with a need that is, a housing type need in the neighborhood, which is the multifamily component of it. And when he was explaining, really looking at the whole Gibson area, your choices are single family or mobile homes. There's no other choices. And it is clear in their community plan, they do want a wider range of choices. They do want choices that's more attainable to the residents, and they do want, more walkability. So this brings us to the walkability portion of it, and I'm not going to read through that, but we're starting with the process with the being able to walk to a charter school, being able to walk to the essential needs of commercial just to the north of us. And this again brings us to the workforce housing revitalization strategy that we talked about in the Gibsonton Community Plan. But there's also, this is the public incentives, and we could just go through it. But also in the comprehensive plan, there's the provision of affordable housing and shall be given high priority consideration by Hillsborough County. There's throughout the whole comprehensive plan, there's talk about the need for affordable housing, attainable housing. There's even density bonuses to do that. And Jim and Betty looking at the site, and they thought this would be a perfect location to do what they want to do, give back to the community. They have been in the community for a long time. And being at this location that is not only going to be served by heart, but it's also walkability and at a perfect location just made sense and to get their population that they need. And so this county level design, this is actually towards the end of the comprehensive plan. They have almost like an overview of how do they see the county as a whole. And these are all points of what this project does. They want to bring activities to walking distance to homes. They want to bring development close to parks and schools, promote a wider range of uses. All of that, as you read that, it's really their project of what they're proposing. And so that brings me to Michael Yates is going to talk about transportation.
Before you turn the microphone over to the next speaker, could you address, first of all, you did say, I believe that the height is a maximum of 45 feet now, right?
Correct.
Because I believe in the staff report, it's 65, and there were concerns about that, about the compatibility.
Exactly.
So you believe the applicant has addressed that, the concerns of staff?
They met with staff after the staff report was filed, and Michelle and Tim can talk more about it, but they had discussion. They're like, okay, you know what, we agree with you. We will lower it to 45 feet. And so the applicant has agreed to lower it to 45 feet.
And so then you're a certified planner. In your opinion, would a 45-foot height then address the compatibility concerns?
Well, there's the compatibility concerns that they raised was that the height next to the single families, and I believe that they were having trouble meeting the 2-for-1. So all of that fell into it. Now, with having a lower height and the structures being closer to the road, that does address that compatibility concern.
All right, so then to be clear, when you say address or the 2-to-1, you're talking about the setback, the additional setback because of the height.
The additional setback required in the land development code. There are some additional setback to specifically address compatibility and compatibility between densities, and that is one method, and we are meeting that requirement.
Okay. Then could you also speak to the issues raised by Planning Commission? And again, a lot of what they considered, Planning Commission staff may have considered, might have been based on that 65 feet, but they can speak to that as well. But some of the other issues raised by Planning Commission about consistency with the comprehensive plan and the community plan. And I know you spoke to that some.
I spoke to that some, and the Planning Commission overall feels, and I'm going to let them speak on their behalf, but they just feel like having a multifamily in a sea of single family is inconsistent. where that is, you know, that may be a perception, but when you're looking in, you're in the urban service area, you are on major roadways, you are, you know, you're walking across I-75 to go to a charter school. I think that is a perfect location where you need to start having multifamilies. You need to start having more housing choices in that area.
Okay. So in your opinion, then a development of potentially 45-foot height multifamily development in that proximity to single family would not necessarily be incompatible or inconsistent?
That is correct, because you do use, and you will see, that's where we put our parking, that's where you put your landscaping, that's where you put, you know, your buffers. We have the buffers, the screening, and all these tools are being applied for here.
Okay. All right. I think that's all my questions for you. Thank you so much.
Yes, I know.
2 minutes left, Mr. Yates.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
Good evening, Michael Yates with Palm Traffic. I just want to go through the traffic real quick and answer any questions you have. As Mr. Malloy alluded to, in the original zoning, the scenario 1 was limited by a trip cap. And so we picked the worst case condition of the two. And then so we limited the trips to that condition. And so what you can see in the presentation here is that both the original, which is A, the 110 townhomes, which is condition B, and condition C, which is the multifamily, all generate less than the original one. A is the exact same as the original one. So we never changed the commercial BPO office. So the original trip cap is still the trip cap that would be implied into this scenario. And then just for an example, because the multifamily was a higher trip generator of the two between that and the townhomes, I did a little comparison here. This was part of the staff report as well from staff, that the actual reduction in trips associated with that compared to the original approval and what is being used as a trip cap. This is a reduction daily AM and PM peak hour trips. And then lastly, I'll go through the roundabout real quick. So there is a CIP project. They're currently under design for the roundabout. And as Mr. Johnson described briefly, we've been working with the county on working to accommodate the roundabout design and the accommodating the additional right-of-way needed. We are in the northwest corner in this illustration here. So this is the current plan that they have. And so we've been working with them. The area in blue is the right-of-way that they're looking for us to preserve and for that they could possibly need it in that. Just to wrap up, we have a design exception for substandard road on Sims Road. We have an administrative variance for substandard road on East Bay. And we have an access spacing variance to move the access further away from the intersection on Sims. And all those have been found approvable by the county engineer. Okay. And that's it for me.
All right, Mr. Yates, thank you. Be sure and sign in with the clerk.
I will. Thank you.
All right, development services.
All right, good evening. Tim Lampkin, Development Services. So the applicant's requesting a major modification for a previously approved plan development 20-0287. The applicant intends to modify development option B, which was formerly option 2, and add an additional development option herein referred to as option C. The site is located on the northwest corner of Sims Road and East Bay Road in Gibsonton. The parcel currently consists of different residential uses, single-family conventional, mobile homes, and vacancies. The zoning districts in the immediate area consist of residential uses, including single-family homes and mobile home parks. The surroundings are a mixture of large residential parcels to the west and south. Mobile home parks exist to the north and the west. East across East Bay Road is residential development. and approximately 3/4 of a mile away along East Bay exists a commercial node. The site is located within the urban service boundary. As was stated when the item was introduced, the current future land use is Res 6 and Res 9. A concurrent comprehensive plan amendment requesting the future land use designation change from residential 6 and residential 9 to residential 20 is also concurrently proposed, and the request is subject to the approval of a comprehensive plan amendment. For option A, no change other than renaming it from option 1 to option A is proposed. For option B, as the applicant team stated, they're increasing the number of townhomes from a maximum of 64 to 110. And there are some other minor modifications with doing that. For example, the maximum height would go from 35 feet. The applicant was proposing 45 feet, the minimum lot width to from 25 feet to 18 feet. And additionally, the applicant's proposing 2 different types of density bonuses. For this option B, they're proposing the gray water density bonus, which would allow up to 148 townhomes may be developed pursuant to a gray water density bonus. And the applicant intends to modify development option B more specifically to amend it to increase the number, again, from 64 to 110. And for option C, the applicant proposes a third development option consisting of a multifamily development for up to a maximum of 199 units with a maximum height of 65 feet. But the applicant stated that now that after the report was filed that they would like to cap that at 45 feet. Staff notes that the applicant initially did request 249 dwelling units with affordable housing or infill development density bonus. However, the applicant subsequently revised the request for a maximum of 199 multifamily dwelling units pursuant to compatibility concerns. Up to 142 multifamily units may be built with an additional 57 units pursuant to density bonuses for a maximum of 199 multifamily units. Additional dwelling units will be achieved through various incentives that allow an increase in density of the proposed multifamily dwelling through one of 2 mechanisms. A gray water density bonus, which would allow a 20% increase for a maximum of 191 units, or an affordable housing density bonus, which essentially pushes them to the next future land use category and allows them up to 199. Staff had found that option C was not in character with the 65 feet. Staff does find that if they're proposing to condition it to 45 feet, that it would address compatibility concerns. There is one design exception from transportation. Sims Road is a substandard collector roadway, and a design exception has been found approvable by the county engineer. And there are 2 administrative variances from transportation. One is for section 6.04.03.L, it's a requirement to make substandard roadway improvements to East Bay in association with the proposed development, and administrative variance 2 from transportation will waive section 6.04.03.L regarding substandard roadway improvements. Based upon the adjacent zonings and uses identified in the reports and testimony tonight, staff finds that it could be found supportable. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, and so I was, of course, going to ask you that too. I guess reducing the height is something that was just very recent, subsequent to the staff report.
That is correct. And I believe the applicant has proposed conditions of approval that would then condition it. As staff doesn't make a recommendation, staff is not proposing conditions, but we have been assisting the applicant with proposed conditions.
Mm-hmm. And so then, to be clear, again, with that reduction in the height,
yes.
Staff opinion, it would be approvable in staff's opinion then?
Staff would find it addresses the compatibility concern. The report had already been filed,
Yes.
and there was substantial information in the report regarding the heights, so it was too late to amend the report.
Okay. That's fine, I understand, and you addressed the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Planning Commission?
Good evening, Bryce Veringer, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the residential 6 and residential 9 future land use categories. It is in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the Gibsonton community plans and the South Shore area-wide systems plan. The subject site's future land use categories are currently pending change by HC CPA 2218, which is a comprehensive plan amendment that would change the site's designation to residential 20. This major modification is considered concurrent and dependent on the approval of HC CPA 22-18 by the Board of County Commissioners. The Res 6 future land use category is located north, east, and west of the subject property. The suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category is located south and further east. Option A of the proposed development proposes 60,500 square feet of office and commercial uses. Option B proposes 110 single-family units, and option C proposes 199 multifamily units. These development options are contingent upon the approval of HC CPA 2218, which the Planning Commission found inconsistent due to compatibility concerns. Staff has found that the proposed major modification would also lead to incompatible developments and is therefore inconsistent with Objective 1 and Policies 1.2 and 1.4 of the future land use element. The proposed major modification is also inconsistent with future land use Objective 16, 16.1, 16.2, and Policy 16.3, which establish the need to protect existing neighborhoods and communities and those that will emerge in the future. The request does not protect existing neighborhoods, as none of the residential developments within 1/2 of a mile of the subject site exceed 6 dwelling units to the acre. This makes the request incompatible with the surrounding densities. Staff have compatibility concerns with the scale of commercial developments proposed in option A, as well as the density and height of the multifamily units that are proposed in option C. The proposed modification is inconsistent with the Gibsonton Community Plan and South Shore Area-wide Systems Plan. While the proposed development offers a range of housing choices, the overall proposed density in option 3 causes significant compatibility concerns, as the development pattern does not support this type of increased density. Additionally, Goal 4A of the Gibsonton Community Plan indicates where commercial uses should be located. Option A allows for commercial uses outside of the community plan designated areas. Overall, the request is inconsistent with the Gibsonton Community Plan and the South Shore Area-wide Systems Plan and the livable communities of the comprehensive plan. Based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification inconsistent with the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
All right. And then just to be clear, the comp plan amendment request to Res 20, Planning Commission found it inconsistent with the comp plan. Is that correct?
Planning Commission staff found it inconsistent,
okay.
and I can confirm with my staff if the actual Board of Planning Commissioners found it inconsistent as well,
okay.
if that's possible.
All right. And Planning Commission staff then has concerns about, I believe you said about option A, which is already an existing approval, correct?
It is, but since it's part of this application, it was addressed in the staff report, and so we included it holistically with the other development options as well.
And then Planning Commission staff then found compatibility concerns with both option B and C, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the reduction in height to 45 feet, that of course wasn't considered in your analysis, was it?
If it was submitted within 12 days of this hearing, it was not.
Okay. Can you comment on whether that would change your analysis?
We would have to formally take it into our consideration, but it is something that we would be taking into consideration as it relates to compatibility, yes.
And then your concerns about compatibility were not just height, really, but density,
The density,
right?
yes,
Okay.
correct, for both options.
Okay. All right, I think that's all my questions for you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Good evening. Buddy Harwell, President, Concerned Citizen Gibsonton, Vice President, Baum Civic Association, representing the Gibsonton community.
All right. And your address, please, Mr. Harwell.
P.O. Box 297, Gibsonton, Florida, 33534. I want to go back to the original rezoning back in 2020. We did meet with Mr. Horner, 1st of March of 2020. He came out to the Civic Association. We met with him. He told us what they were doing then. Went over the commercial versus residential. We were pretty much against the residential. We told him, we'd be in favor and support the commercial. We need jobs in the area. We don't need no more houses. All of South Shore needs jobs. I mean, we're driving to Tampa. We need jobs in the area. Well, needless to say, COVID hit, so with the hearings all postponed online and stuff, we never, it was hard to keep track of when it was, so we didn't get the chance to speak on it. So we're here. We did meet with, I did meet with Ms. Malloy and the owner back in April at their office. We discussed some stuff, the affordable housing stuff. They came out to the community 3 or 4 months ago, I believe, in maybe May or so. Again, pretty much the group was, especially against this dense of in this area. Sims Road, East Bay Road, 2-lane road, substandard. When I substandard, it's the picture child of substandard, okay? Anyways, 2020, 1st of January 2020, Hillsborough County did a community profile of the area. Now they're talking about affordable housing. I'm all in favor of affordable housing if it's affordable. My understanding is you gotta make like $80,000 to get this affordable housing. See right there, the average income is $48,000 in the area back then. Now, if you went back 10 years from there, because of all the growth, it would probably be in the low 30s or high 20s because of the new development coming in the area with a new clientele of people. This goes to what I was saying, we need jobs. It's shown 208 people a day stay in the area. 7,400 people leave the area looking for jobs. 1,600 come in the area for jobs. They did address this. This is a Heartline bus route that does not come anywhere near this, over a mile away. They did address that. Thank you. This is what the community asked for. They did SWATs and different things. And as you can see where they are, there's no improvements. It's just plain residential. This is some of the SWAT stuff that they're, the strengths, RSB zoning, local small businesses. Weaknesses, roads, number one, imagine that. Poor planning, traffic, lack of sidewalks and streets, threats, loss of hometown atmosphere, lack of representation, infrastructure, lack of county support, opportunities, more streetlights, sidewalks, neighborhoods, slowing down the growth in residential areas. Here's another one, talking about what we can do, what makes Gibsonton what it is. Location, natural resources, country, rural, small town. Opportunities that can be done is infrastructure. Threats, again, roads are on there, and overcrowding. weaknesses, traffic, lack of retail, groceries. Now we had probably, as you can see, some of the numbers that represent this, we probably had over 100 people attend this meeting. This is a build out. This is, I think, what they're asking for. Only 4 parcels, only 12 acres. That's even in the area. This is where they are, where they want to put the Res 20. Here's the Res 20 that's in now, 4 or 5 miles away from it. This was on their sheet. Last thing, if not now, when? If not here, where? When we have the infrastructure in place and first responders and water capable of providing the residents. If not here, where? This is too dense of a zoning for this area. It belongs on 301, Big Bend, Brandon, Tampa, Temple Terrace. It don't belong in the middle of Gibsonton. We made this up for some of our meetings and some other stuff talking about the rezoning. I want to enter this in. We got a list of residents that object. Like I say, we did approve the commercial over the houses, even though that the traffic count is higher, but it's spread out during the day, not in the morning and afternoon when everybody else is going to work. Substandard roads, I talked about that. Talk about the charter school down the road, make it easy for the people to walk there. But I don't know, can the affordable housing family afford a charter school? What good's that gonna do? The height of the building, you heard its compatibility concerns. 6 per acre or 9 per acre versus 20 per acres, that's a concern for a change. That's a big change. Planning Commission denies it on several reasons. Therefore, we're asking for a denial too. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Harwell, how long have you been a resident of this Gibsonton area?
I was born in the area. My dad had a shopping center in the area from 1960. I've been there since 65. 2003, I moved out to Balm to get away from the crap. You followed me? And like I say, I still have a business in Gibsonton, so I'm up there 2 or 3 times a week at least. Okay. I have rental property.
So you have so you have property there, but you no longer live
I no longer
area.
live there, but like I say, I lived there from 65 till 2004.
Okay, and so is it your testimony that the main concerns of your concerns, I guess, and the community's concerns are with the traffic, the congestion of the traffic, and the lack of jobs?
The traffic is, I mean, every rezoning, it's traffic. I know you can't base anything on that. I don't know why, because the traffic slows down the first responders, goes to life-saving measures. Lack of jobs. Like I say, South Hillsborough County, we have a lack of jobs. We don't need houses. We need jobs so that people can stay in the area and not drive and maybe calm down the traffic.
Okay, so you weren't objecting necessarily to the commercial option, but to the housing option,
No,
the residential?
like I say, we need some jobs in the area.
Okay. All right, that's all questions I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. I need to submit this?
Yeah, yes, submit those and sign in, please. All right, is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, I don't hear anyone. Development services, anything further?
Yes, ma'am. I needed to point out 2 things in looking over the applicant's proposed conditions. On number 4, it has the building height for option C is 65 feet, 4 stories, and I believe they said that they would be reducing that to 45.
Okay.
And then secondly, for condition 4.1, in regards to impact fees, this condition is not one that if you do recommend that the project be approved with the applicant's conditions. Condition 4.1 is not a condition that Development Services would recommend. It has to do with impact fees. And for the reason of that's not something that, it's a different process. That's not something that's regulated by conditions of approval and zoning. Also, we don't know if they would be subject to it or not. And also if, I've been told that impact fees, especially if it's a county project, isn't necessarily waived. It's paid for by the county. So we wouldn't recommend 4.1.
All right. The first condition you mentioned, what condition number was it?
I'm seeing 4, page 30 of 43 in the handout.
The applicant's handout?
Yes, ma'am. The one that's not the PowerPoint printout.
I want to make sure I have the same thing you have. I have the zoning narrative, and it is numbered, pages,
If
looks
you go
like
to
through
page
43. And then there's PowerPoint slides. So which one is it before the PowerPoint slides?
Mine is in 2 separate handouts. So the handout I have, zoning submittal PD 220671, which lists the applicant's team. And that one is numbered. It begins, it's page 3 of 43.
Yes.
And then within that segment, if you go to number 4, for option C, it has maximum building height 65 feet, 4 stories.
All right, and that's part of the, what is labeled, I guess at the top, it's titled zoning narrative, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, and what page is it on that's got the reference to 65 feet?
Page 30.
Okay, thank you, just a second.
Oh.
All right, page 30 of 43. All right, my copy has 65 feet scratched out and it's got 45 feet written in. So maybe they didn't write that on your copy. But we'll make a note of it, and I'll have the applicant clarify that too in their rebuttal comments in just a second, Mr. Malloy.
Madam Hearing Officer, what the applicant and the planner are telling me is that there were another set of conditions that they provided to the applicant that the applicant was to provide. I don't see it in this handout, so I want to make sure you have it, and Tim Lampkin has that.
Okay, I have a document here, and it says draft possible conditions of approval. That may be what they're referring to, but I'll have the applicant clarify that too.
Yes, I believe it is. It wasn't in my packet.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else from Development Services?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Planning Commission raising his hand over here. Let's go to Planning Commission just quickly. Thank you.
Madam Hearing Officer, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the point that we had discussed earlier regarding HCCPA 2218. That comprehensive plan amendment did go before the Planning Commission and was found inconsistent by a vote of 8-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Applicant, please.
William Malloy again, 325 South Boulevard. Madam Hearing Officer, if I could, we are slightly at sea as to whether or not we have the support of Development Services right now or not. Is that a question that's fair to me to ask, or that you could?
Well, it seems Development Services opined that reducing the height to 45 feet addressed compatibility concerns. What specifically are you concerned about? That condition?
Mostly phrasing, that the application could be found approvable rather than the standard this application is now recommended for approval.
All right.
And I may be just wordsmithing, but
Let's ask Development Services to speak to that.
Sure. Our recommendation right now is the non-support based on what we had in the record for us as well as the reviewing agencies at the time of the report. If the applicant does want this re-examined, as they were told before, we would suggest a continuance so that they could get that in the record and it could be discussed with us and also Planning Commission staff.
All right, thank you. Mr. Malloy, it does muddy things, and it makes it difficult for me to write a recommendation because maybe the record isn't as clear as it should be. So I believe you could request a continuance if you don't want to go forward and risk that muddied record.
And that date would be October 16th.
we're going to stay the course. We're going to very firmly put on the record 45 feet. If for any reason that becomes an issue, let's please address it before we get to the board so we make sure that 45 is the number that we will commit to.
Yeah, that's in your proposed conditions of approval, but it won't be in our staff report, and we're not able to change anything after tonight's hearing.
Thank you, thank you. So, thank you. With that being cleared up, I would just like to address a few of Mr. Harwell's concerns. I think they're all legitimate. They mostly echo what we heard from him and from his neighbors in the meetings we had with him. I think that his concern about jobs versus rooftops is one that unfortunately we face all over South County in Hillsborough. We've dealt with it extensively in Waimama. Which comes first, the rooftops or the jobs? We understand that asking for R20 in what really is an ocean of SMU 6 and R4 looks like a spot zoning. I know what a spot zoning is, you know what a spot zoning is. This is a different color in a vast amount of one color. It's not a spot zoning, it's an opportunity here that we have. It's a rare confluence of events and geographic and infrastructure issues that come together here. You've got two major roads, you've got a roundabout that is uniting them, which as soon as folks figure out how to use the roundabout effectively, I think is going to be a tremendous traffic calming and traffic easing mechanism down there. You've got the charter school, which I wouldn't presume to correct Mr. Harwell, but that is free. That doesn't have to be paid for. The walkability option up to the Walmart on Gibsonton and the associated retail there. I understand that it's not perfect. It's not, it doesn't fit squarely in the hole that it's meant for, but this is an opportunity we can't miss in Gibsonton. This is workforce housing. And as much as we go back to the Gibsonton plan, it is redolent with references to workforce housing. Gibsonton is a working class community. There's nothing wrong with that. They need better options for housing than just mobile homes. And the homes that are being built there are not for the folks from Gibsonton. It's a bedroom community for Tampa. A project like this that's affordable, that gives that opportunity, that gives surface parking, that allows for trade parking, vehicles that would otherwise be outside storage. It's an opportunity we can't miss, and it'd be a shame if we did. And I will stop right there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Malloy. All right, this closes the hearing on Major Modification 22-0671. Did we ever get in touch with the applicant for the case we had to skip?
We were not able to reach that applicant. I don't know if since then he's come into the room.
Okay.
Standard rezoning 230636.
Right. Is the applicant here for rezoning 23-0636? All right. Would it be appropriate then to continue that case?
Yes, ma'am, and that would be to the October 16th ZHM hearing.
Okay. So we're going to continue rezoning standard 23-0636 to the October 16th, 2023 zoning hearing master meeting. All right.
Our next item then is item D2, Major Mod Application 22-1637. The applicant is requesting a major modification to PD 020053. Chris Greenlenard with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. My name is David Wright, president of TSP Companies. Our address is P.O. Box 273417, Tampa 33688, and I have been sworn. This application is seeking a major modification to an approved plan development. The current PD was approved in 1991. The PD allows whatever uses including the non-conforming uses that existed on the site when the PD was approved, and also a mix of agricultural, commercial, and light industrial uses. We're seeking to modify the PD to allow a 300-seat church on the subject property, which is a portion of the PD. The 2-acre property is located on the north side of East Chelsea Street and east of Orient Road. It is surrounded by a mix of uses including single-family residential, public institutional uses, and light commercial uses. The Florida State Fairgrounds are located to the north of the PD. The subject site's future land use is Res 6, and the site is generally surrounded by the Res 6. The site is also a part of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The Res 6 designation allows for consideration of up to 6 dwelling units per gross acre and 0.25 floor area ratio for non-residential uses. Typical uses in the Res 6 include residential, suburban scale, neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use developments. A church is a residential support use and consistent with the uses permitted in the Res 6 and within the allowable FAR as proposed. Furthermore, Planning Commission staff and Development Service staff both found the proposed church to be compatible with the surrounding uses. The application includes a request for a transportation design exception and an administrative variance, both of which have been deemed approvable by the county engineer if this modification is approved. The design exception addresses substandard roadway condition of Chelsea Street. Sufficient right-of-way does not exist to improve Chelsea Street to the county standard. Therefore, the design exception proposes the construction of approximately 700 feet of off-site sidewalk on the north side of Chelsea Street to mitigate the project's impact to the substandard condition. The administrative variance seeks the approval to not construct a westbound site access left turn lane on Chelsea Street at the project's driveway. This request is based on Chelsea Street being a dead-end street with extremely low traffic volumes. Where due to the relatively low volume of the traffic, Chelsea Street functions more as a local road than a collector road, where local roads do not require site access turn lanes. Again, the county engineer has found the DE and AV to be approvable subject to the board's approval of the PD modification. Lastly, I would like to address the objections submitted into the party of record. The primary objection is to increase traffic resulting from the development of the property. I do not think the objections included competent substantial evidence, but I offer the following. First, the church is an off-peak traffic generator, so it will not contribute to existing congestion during peak hours. The proposed church is a lower traffic generator than some of the commercial uses permitted with the approved PD. Lastly, the design exception will require the construction of 700 feet of sidewalk along the north side of Chelsea Street, west of the church property, and will result in a sidewalk along the entire north side of the Chelsea Street frontage, up to the intersection of Orient Road. One of the objections included 2020 crash data from a number of intersections in the project vicinity. Transportation staff has reviewed the application as well as the DE and AV and found them to be approvable subject to conditions. This application is not requesting any waivers or variations. It has finding of consistent with the comp plan and recommendation of approval subject conditions. I request your recommendation of approval. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wright. Be sure and sign in, please. Development Services.
Good evening. Chris Greenlenard, Development Services. I'm here to present major modification 22-1637. The approximate 2.04 acre vacant property is composed of 2 parcels zoned PD 92-0053, planned development. The site is located in the general location of 200 feet northeast of the intersection of East Chelsea Street and Berkeley Drive. The applicant proposes a PD modification to allow a 300-seat church. The area consists of residential and institutional uses. The subject property is adjacent to single-family residential zone PD to the north. It's adjacent to a small church zoned PD to the east. To the west is adjacent to single-family residential zone PD and RSC 6. To the south across East Chelsea Street is single-family residential zoned RSC 6. The Florida State Fairgrounds is in close vicinity to the property to the north. Also, there is another large church located further west on East Chelsea Street. The subject property is designated residential 6 on the future land use map. The Planning Commission finds the proposed use consistent with the comp plan. The surrounding uses are similar to the request, single-family residential and institutional. Therefore, the modification to PD 92-0053 to allow a 300-seat church would be consistent with the existing zoning pattern of the area. Based on the residential 6 future land use classification, the surrounding zoning and development pattern, and the proposed uses for the modified plan development, staff finds the request approvable, subject to proposed conditions. That includes my staff report. Glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. No questions for you.
Thank you.
All right, Planning Commission.
Good evening, Bryce Faringer, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the residential 6 future land use category. It is in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The subject site is generally surrounded by residential 6. A small area of public, quasi-public is located to the west. For further north, northwest, and east of the site is designated as public, quasi-public as well. The proposed rezoning is consistent with Objective 1 and Policy 1.4 of the future land use element, as it would encourage compatible development within the urban service area. The area contains a mix of uses including single-family residential, public institutional uses, and light commercial uses. The proposal is consistent with Objective 8 and Policy 8.1, as the 20,000 square foot single-story church building is within the allowable 0.25 FAR expected for non-residential uses within the residential 6 future land use category. The proposed modification meets the intent of Objective 16 and Policies 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, and 16.5 of the future land use element. The proposal includes adequate access points and parking. Buffering and screening is proposed along the north and west sides of the folio, which abuts residential uses. A proposed stormwater retention area is located to the west of the parking lot, providing the residents an additional buffer. There are adequate pedestrian facilities within the site, and sidewalks are proposed along the site's frontage along East Chelsea Street. Furthermore, the proposal is consistent with Policy 17.1, as a church is a residential support use. Objective 12-1 and Policy 12-1.4 of the community design component encourage new development to be compatible with the established character of the surrounding area. The development pattern and character of this area contains single-family residential, public institutional uses, and light commercial uses. The proposed major modification to allow for a church on the site is therefore compatible with the surrounding development pattern. The proposal is consistent with the intent of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan of the Livable Communities element. The proposed church will promote development that recognizes the needs and distinct identities of the East Lake Orient Park neighborhoods and enhances the quality of life. Based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Hello, my name is Linda Whidden. I am the president of our Civic Association of Kings Forest. And I thank you for listening to us.
All right, we need an address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4322 Berkeley Drive, Tampa 33610. We addressed this one time before the pandemic, and it was turned down. We're asking you again to turn it down, and why you think that this is sufficient for our small neighborhood, we don't understand. It's a 2-lane road on Orient. It's a 2-lane road on Chelsea. To enter our subdivision, you have to come through either Chelsea or Berkeley. Right now, it's like a racetrack. Even though it is a dead end to the park, they zoom down there. to the park on Chelsea. They zoom down Berkeley Drive. They don't even stop at the stop sign most of the time. This neighborhood is an old neighborhood. It's been since the 60s it was built. They have not come in and done anything to improve the sewer lines, the water system. Oh, well, I take it back. They did jerry-rig putting sleeves in those old systems. You're saying that that is sufficient, but if it was someone of us that was wanting to do something, that wouldn't be sufficient if we did the sewer lines or the water lines with a sleeve. We deal with this every day, and you're saying that it's not going to interfere with our subdivision? Yes, we have the fairgrounds, we have the casino, we have other churches, we have trucking companies, and you all just recently approved for a hotel to be built on MLK. You can't hardly get out of our subdivision as it is. We're asking you, please do not approve this. You're talking about a 300-seat church. You get 94 parking spaces. Well, yeah, the guy does own the property at the corner. And yeah, you're talking about putting in a sidewalk because we don't have sidewalks. Well, there's a culvert on the other side where they're talking about putting a sidewalk. What are you going to do with that? We have gas lines out there that are on both sides of Chelsea. Again, we're asking, there's been 240 wrecks between Hillsborough Avenue and MLK on Orient Road itself. It's a speed trap out there. I mean, it's just ridiculous with our old neighborhood that you would want to put something in there. And I already know that the fairgrounds offered to take this property from them, buy it, and then they was going to fence it off, have their entrance through the service entrance off of Orient Road, so it would not interfere with our neighborhood at all, that it would be for maybe horse trailers or whatever, that we wouldn't be seeing it. We deal with the concerts, the fair, anything else that's going on around there, we are dealing with it. We're just asking, please do not approve this. If you lived in that neighborhood, you wouldn't want it.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Be sure and sign in with the clerk here.
Hello, my name is Lisa Pedrowski. I live at 4321 Berkeley Drive. I just wanted to make a couple additional points. A 300 capacity church is not going to only have services on Sunday. I'm sure they will have Bible study during week evening nights as well as probably an evening service, because most churches do. They will also hold weddings there. We already hear noise from the fairgrounds and the amphitheater, which is a lot farther away, and then we will have to induce the noise that would come from the church holding events. And I also have a concern because a lot of the churches in the area that we already have often do, I don't know if you call it a food drive, but people that are unfortunate come and get free food. And I think that's an honorable thing to do. However, not all those unfortunate people are respectable people. Some of them are unfortunate because they have drug problems and other situations. And those people will be coming into the neighborhood if this church does something like that, which most of the other Baptist churches in the area do something like that. And we already have enough issues with cars being broken into, crime in the area. I don't need to have that. And another concern that I have is that, as she previously mentioned, with Berkeley Drive, people use that as a cut-through to get to the casino as it is. And I'm sure they would use it to get as a cut-through to come from MLK down Berkeley to get to the church, and not necessarily just use Chelsea Drive. Berkeley also does not have any sidewalks, and there are no speed bumps. Children play and ride their bicycles in the street. People walk their dogs, and there's no sidewalks. So that would be a concern of mine, and I'm sure that there would be people that would attend the church that would definitely use Berkeley Drive to get to that church and not Chelsea Street if they were coming from MLK, because we have an entrance to Berkeley from MLK, not just from Chelsea Street. And we already get an influx of traffic heading to the casino that way, and obviously they have no concern for the correct speed limit in a residential area. And again, we don't have speed bumps either, although I think we requested them and were denied for whatever reason. So those are the concerns that I have with regards to the church being built. And I would be completely open to having additional housing put on the vacant lot or duplexes on the vacant lot. I just don't believe that a 300 capacity church is a right area. That's just not the right venue for it. And not to mention, as they said themselves, there are several other churches in the area. There's a Baptist church that is directly across Chelsea Street. I don't understand why they would need another Baptist church to be so close to one that's already there. That just seems awfully odd to me. So that's basically my concerns.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Morgan. I live at 4323 Berkeley Drive. I am directly across the street from this property. And I have submitted my opposition through email, and along with all the petitions and photos of the traffic and everything, and I just wanted to make sure that that was documented.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Yes, ma'am. Please come up to the microphone. And please state your name and your address first,
Yes,
please.
ma'am. My name is Ronnie Cole. My address is 4317 Berkeley Drive, 33610. I'd just like to reiterate what these young ladies have just said about the neighborhood. The neighborhood is very old. It's been houses since the 60s. Again, I know you're all tired of hearing this, but we got the fairgrounds there. We got a casino. We have a church across the street on Chelsea. We have a playground at the end of the neighborhood, which is a dead-end street. We don't need a big church. Again, Berkeley is used for a hot rod. People coming back and forth. And it's just not feasible for us to have a church that size in the neighborhood when it could be used for something else. We like to keep our neighborhood as it is because we're striving to make it better every day. But with stuff coming in like this church, that's not gonna help us. We already got 2 churches in the neighborhood. And it's just a bad, bad taste in the mouth to say that it's made for that church. It's not made for that church. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone. Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further, ma'am.
All right. Applicant?
Again, David Wright for the record. With all due respect to the residents, traffic is a problem in almost all of these zoning applications, as stated earlier in another case. I have reviewed the documentation that was submitted in with the photos of the traffic, and they're from a lot of different intersections around the area. There's no determination if those were done during weekday peak hour, Sunday peak hour. I don't know when they were taken. I can't tell from what was submitted. The church will have services on Sunday morning and Wednesday evening. Again, I would point your attention to the transportation staff report and the approval of the design exception administrative variance. The administrative variance did include traffic counts on Chelsea Street. So with that, nothing further.
All right, thank you. This closes the hearing on major modification 22-1637. No, the hearing is closed. Thank you.
Our next item is item D4, PD rezoning 22-1647. The applicant is requesting to rezone property to PD from RSC 9. I've reviewed this for Development Services and will present staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, respected zoning hearing master. My name is J.D. El Sabah. I'm with Sycamore Engineering. My address is 8370 West Hillsborough Avenue, Suite 205, Tampa, Florida 33615. and I have already sworn. I am representing the applicant. I have with me Mr. Mike Yates. He is Palm Traffic. He is our traffic consultant. Our subject property for today is 4.65 acre located in the northwest corner of Gun Highway and 4 Oaks Road. It's Tampa, Florida, which is the subject of this PD rezoning request. The property has about 0.25 acre, more or less, of wetland, and existing zoning of RSC 9 and future land use Res 9. The proposed PD is surrounded by 4 Oaks Road on the east, with commercial use and 2 single-family lots, which one is vacant. Gun Highway to the south, Tampa Bay Water Partial, which has an active well and tower to the west, and 40-foot wide, heavily vegetated alley to the north. Oh, this key, 1 second here. So this is the future land use. And this is, of course, this is existing zoning. We are proposing 3 options of entitlement. First option consists of 12,500 square foot of child care center and 30,000 square foot of commercial general. There is no bonus request on this option. The second option consists of 110,000 square foot of mini warehouse, 9,900 square foot of professional service use, which are both vertically integrated. And based on that, we are requesting per policy 19.3 to have FAR bonus from 0.35 to 0.6. In this option, we're also proposing 9,900 square foot of commercial general use. The third option consists of 18,000 square foot of commercial general use, 2,000 square foot professional service use, and 39 single-family attached townhome unit. With the 3 proposed horizontally integrated use, we are requesting a bonus density per policy 19.3 on number of townhome unit from 9 unit per acre to 12 unit per acre. We are proposing 2 accesses serving the property. Full access on 4 Oaks Road, which is substandard road with sufficient right-of-way. We are proposing improvement to include northbound left turn lane, sidewalk, and curbing. The design exception request on this road obtain approvable recommendation by the county engineer. The second access to the development is right in, right out on Gun Highway, serving the proposed development. The Gun Highway is arterial road with about 4.5 foot from our property to be dedicated to the right-of-way based on 70-foot distance from center line required. So we are not requesting any waiver or variance on LDC 6.06 for landscape buffer, fence, or wall, except to allow our buffer to be away from the property line for option 1, adjacent to the child care center west side limit, and option 3, adjacent to the townhome west side limit, since LDC required to have a tree within 10 feet from the property line, but we could not do due to the existing swale. So finally, our proposed PD is mixed-use development on commercial node surrounded by residential uses of single-family and multifamily. Also, it's located at commercial corridor on both sides of Gun Highway. Our proposed PD is consistent with the purpose and intent of PD zoning district and the land development code. Accordingly, we ask respectfully for your recommendation of approval. Ready to answer any question?
Just could you show me on the site plan where you're requesting that PD variation? Where is that swale?
Sure. So what's happened is option 1 and option 3, we have a swale on the west side of the property.
Okay,
and
I see
we
it.
could not place the buffer, and they require it, of course, the best of my ability, type D buffer on the first option, 10-foot type D on the first option. So we move it to the west side of the daycare away from the swale.
Okay, thank you. I see it.
And the
Yes.
same with the option 3.
Okay,
Sure.
got it. That's all my questions for you. Thank you. Be sure and sign in, sir. Over here. All right, Development Services.
Development Services, Michelle Heinrich. As you heard, this is a request for PD zoning to allow 3 development options involving non-residential and residential uses with intensity and density bonuses. The 4.65 acre site is located at the northwest corner of Gun Highway and 4 Oaks Boulevard, or I'm sorry, 4 Oaks Road, as the applicant showed on his maps. And for option 1, the applicant is requesting daycare and limited CG zoning district uses, and this will be within the currently permitted FAR of 0.35. Option 2 requests limited CG uses, professional service uses, and a mini warehouse. Vertical integration of the professional service uses and mini warehouse will allow for consideration of an intensity bonus, adding a 0.25 FAR to the existing 0.35, allowing a 0.60 FAR. Option 3 requests limited CG uses, professional services, and townhomes. Horizontal integration of the 3 uses will allow for consideration of a density bonus that will be applied to the residential portion, allowing a 12 unit per acre as opposed to 9 unit per acre product. Non-residential will remain at the currently permitted FAR of 0.35. As you just discussed, there is one PD variation that's requested, and that is along the western PD buffer. There is a 50-foot wide Hillsborough County drainage easement, which needs to be left obstructed. So the applicant is providing what's required, they're just internalizing it. Under all options, the applicant has demonstrated compatibility with residential uses found to the north and northeast, using buffering and screening, which meets or exceeds LDC requirements, greater setbacks due to proposed heights, and building design where applicable. Additionally, more intense CG uses have been prohibited, and those permitted CG uses will be located along Gun Highway, further away from the residential. Staff received a finding of consistency from the Planning Commission and support for the bonuses, and no objections from reviewing agencies were received. Therefore, we do find the request approvable, subject to proposed conditions of approval. And I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. No questions. Planning Commission?
Bryce Faringer, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the Residential 9 Future Land Use category. It is in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the Greater Carrollwood Northdale Community Plan. The subject site is surrounded by Residential 9 to the north, east, and west. The Residential 6 designation is located to the southeast and further west. The Residential 4 designation is located to the southwest and further northeast. There is one area of public, quasi-public, which is publicly owned conservation land to the south. Surrounding uses include single-family residential to the north and south located off Gun Highway, and light commercial uses located along Gun Highway. Each of the 3 proposed development options are compatible with the development in the area as it relates to height, mass, scale, and bulk of structures. The site is in the Residential 9 Future Land Use designation and meets commercial locational criteria. Each development option provides either stormwater retention areas and landscape buffer or ample landscape buffer and existing natural vegetation on the northern boundary, which mitigates impacts to the single-family residential in the area. This ensures that the proposed rezoning meets the intent of the neighborhood protection policies of the future land use element, as well as Goal 12 and Objective 12-1 of the community design component. The applicant is requesting a density and intensity bonus under options 2 and 3 in accordance with policy 19.3 of the future land use element. Under option 2, the applicant proposes to vertically integrate 2 land uses in order to achieve the floor area ratio of 0.60. A 101,000 square foot mini storage building with a 10,100 square foot of professional office space on the ground floor is proposed. This is consistent with the policy direction that requires 10% of the total building square footage in the project to be used for uses other than the primary use. Under option 3, the applicant proposes the allowable 0.35 FAR of general commercial and professional office uses in the approximately 1.33 acre southern portion of the site. They also request a density bonus from 9 dwelling units per acre to 12 dwelling units per acre on approximately 3.39 acres of the subject site. This comes out to a total of 39 townhomes. Since the 3 uses are being integrated within the site, option 3 also meets the intent of the density bonus under policy 19.3. The subject site meets commercial locational criteria in accordance with Objective 22 and policies 22.1 and 22.2 of the future land use element. The site is located in the residential 9 future land use designation and is within the required 1,000-foot distance from the closest qualifying intersection of Gunn Highway and Nixon Road. Non-residential development shall be limited to 150,000 square feet or the required FAR, whichever is less intense. None of the 3 development options exceed this, and the application is therefore consistent with this policy direction. The proposed plan development meets the intent of the Greater Carrollwood-Northdale Plan. The proposal is consistent with transit-oriented development techniques and compatibility guidelines as established by this community plan. Based upon the above considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Applicant, do you have anything further? Nothing. All right. Thank you. This closes the hearing on rezoning PD 22-1647.
Our next, I'm sorry, were you going to
Well,
recommend?
it's pushing 8 o'clock. Why don't we take just a few minutes break and we'll reconvene in about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're back. This is the August 21st, 2023 zoning hearing master meeting, and I believe we're ready for the next case.
Our next item is item D5, PD 23-0408. The applicant is requesting to rezone property currently zoned RSC2 to planned development. Sam Ball with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. My name is Dallas Evans. I'm a licensed professional engineer and certified planner with the firm of Landis Evans and Partners. My address is 3810 Northdale Boulevard in Tampa, and I've been sworn. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Florida Home Partnership. The applicant is requesting a planned development rezoning. The subject 0.35 acre property is located 0.12 miles south of State Road 674 at the southeast corner of Hickman Street and 7th Street in Waimama. The property is currently vacant and zoned RSC2, residential single-family commercial. Adjacent uses include vacant residential and single-family to the north, west, and south, and Waimama Elementary School to the east. The property is within the residential 4 future land use category. Residential 9 future land uses exist north, and public future land uses to the east of the property with a school. The undeveloped plots to the north are zoned RSC6. The single-family and mobile homes to the west are zoned ASC1. Zoning of the adjacent single-family residential property to the south and the elementary school to the east are zoned RSC2. The current request is to rezone the property from RSC2, residential single-family conventional, to planned development. This would allow for the utilization of the affordable housing density bonus to develop the property into a maximum of 2 single-family residential or duplex units. Development will be subject to the building setbacks noted in the conditions of approval, which are consistent with the affordable housing development standards. The project will be served by Hillsborough County Water and Sewer. To summarize some of the key findings from the staff report, staff has found the request to be compatible with nearby development patterns. The Planning Commission has found the development to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. There are no objections from any of the reviewing agencies, and staff has found the request approvable. With that, I'll conclude my presentation. I respectfully request your recommendation of approval. I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Have no questions for you. Be sure and sign in with the clerk. Thank you.
Good evening, Sam Ball of Development Services. The applicant is requesting to rezone from RSC2 to planned development to allow the site to be developed as 2 dwelling units through the application of a LDC Section 61107 Affordable Housing Density Bonus. The property is located approximately 0.12 miles south of State Road 674 at the southeast corner of Hickman Street and 7th Street intersection. The property is also within the Waimama Downtown Subdistrict D Downtown Residential Overlay District, but because the proposed site is for single-family or duplex development, the proposed development is exempt from compliance with the Waimama Overlay District requirements. The property is currently undeveloped. Properties in the immediate vicinity are developed for single-family, residential, religious, and educational uses. The State Road 674 commercial corridor is located approximately 0.12 miles to the north. The property is also located within a quarter mile of 3 religious institutions, and the property, budding property to the east, as 11.6 acres, is developed as an elementary school. The budding properties to the north, south, and west are developed for single-family use and are zoned RSC6 to the north, ASC1 to the west, and RSC2 to the south. If Plan Development 230408 is approved, the property would be able to be developed with either 2 single-family lots or 1 duplex, or a number for the maximum number of dwelling units of up to 2 dwellings, which would result in 5.71 dwellings per acre. Based on the surrounding zoning and development pattern and the proposed use and development standards for the plan development, staff finds the request approvable subject to conditions. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission?
Bryce Farringer, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the Residential 4 future land use category. It is in the urban service area and is located within the limits of the Waimama Village Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Residential 4 surrounds the subject site directly to the east, south, and west. North is the Residential 6 future land use category. Further south and east is public quasi-public. Further northeast is Office Commercial 20. Further east is Waimama Village Residential 2. The request for a plan development to allow for 2 affordable housing development units is consistent with Objective 1 and Policy 1.4 of the future land use element. The request meets the requirements of Policy 1.3.1 of the housing section, which would allow for the maximum level of residential density in each land use category to be increased. Residential 4 allows a maximum consideration of up to 0.25 FAR or up to 4 dwelling units per gross acre. Currently, only 1 dwelling unit is allowed for consideration on the approximately 0.35 acre subject site. Per Table 1 in Policy 1.3.1 of the Affordable Housing Density Bonus within the Residential 4 future land use category, the density increase allows for the maximum consideration of up to 6 dwelling units per gross acre. The addition of an affordable housing bonus would allow the subject site to be considered for a maximum of up to 2 dwelling units, either 2 single-family detached homes or 1 duplex. Therefore, the density proposal is consistent with Objective 8 and 8.1 of the future land use element as well. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of neighborhood protection policies of future land use element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, 16.8, and 16.10. The development pattern of the surrounding area shows several residential units. A planned development rezoning would reflect a development pattern that is consistent with the character pattern of the surrounding area. The proposed project will provide a housing opportunity that is attainable and affordable, as well as consistent with the development pattern of the surrounding area. The proposed planned development is therefore consistent with Objective 20 and Policies 20.1 and 20.2. The subject site also meets the intent of the affordable housing and neighborhood goals and strategies of the Waimama Village Community Plan. The plan seeks to encourage affordable housing that accommodates a diverse population and a wide range of income levels. The subject site meets the intent of this goal, as the applicant will provide affordable housing options to households earning 80% or less of the AMI. Similarly, the subject site meets the intent of the cultural and historic goals and strategies for the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The plan seeks to promote sustainable growth and maintain housing opportunities for all income groups throughout the South Shore area. A rezoning to a planned development would allow for an affordable housing development that would facilitate this goal. Based upon these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Hello, good evening. My name is Nancy, and I am at 910 7th Street in Waimama. I'm here to oppose the rezoning of the property
I need
that
your
has...
last name on the record as well, please.
Nancy Calderon. I'm here to oppose the rezoning of the property that has been assigned to a single-dwelling home in the past. In fact, there was a trailer that burnt down, and no one has lived there for some time. I'm opposed to any kind of commercial building such as the duplex that they're recommending. I don't think it's going to be for the neighborhood or for income-based families. Unfortunately, in that area, in that neighborhood, you know, you see tons of extended families. You also see a lot of other type of family members living together in one building. And, you know, that is a little bit concerning because I know that if it becomes a duplex, it's not going to be for the benefit of the neighborhood. It's going to be for a business opportunity. And I get it. You know, we are all looking to make a buck here and there, but not at the sacrifice of security or, you know, in my sense, security. And the reason I say that is because I know that this is a community neighborhood. It's not about having renters here and there come and go. That's going to create a lot of traffic, and that's concerning. As it is a one-way street going into that area on this side. This side, there's a house. So when you go back in the back, there's a park, so there's always traffic. There is trailers, houses, different type of house building, and there's only one way in and out. So I feel if that becomes more of a business, it's going to create a lot more traffic, which I'm really not looking forward to. There's enough traffic as it is. Again, my concern is safety. It is not uncommon, like I said, to see renters, and mostly I see a lot of like men sharing home, you know, and if you rent a place like this, you're not going to be able to be strict on these background checks and check who they are, because you're just wanting your house to be rented out. You're not going to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that's concerning to me. There's a school behind that property, you know, so I think we need to have all kinds of measures to protect our school. You know, our kids go to that school. And so to me, that is concerning. My kids' safety is very concerning. So again, my concern is not expanding the neighborhood to affordable housing. It's more of making it a business, and it will be a business. In that neighborhood, you cannot control the type of potential renters. And I get it, like I said. I'm not oblivious to these kind of things, you know, but my concern is safety. What do these potential security issues bring up? I don't know, but my concern is to be here, to know that I did what I had to do to protect my children, to protect my neighbors' kids, because I cannot control who will live in that house. And having people with all ranges of backgrounds and all these things concerns me, and it scares me, to be honest. I don't want to be living next to someone who has 10 men living in there, or like 20 people living there who, you know, based on what I see in the community. This is where I live. I know what I know based on the fact that I live there. So that is my main concern, and I would like for you guys to rethink it in any sense of way, mostly for the security of our children, because there is a school behind that property. There's an elementary school, and I went to that school for forever when I was in that community. So I know Waimama used to be a town where people knew each other. We knew who came in, you knew the neighbors, you know, you would see them at the stores. All these new developments are bringing in a lot of people, and I get it. We are trying to just find a place to live in, but to me, I don't think it's the appropriate housing for that little small lot, and making it more of a business and making it a duplex that potentially can bring on all kinds of shades and colors and backgrounds. And that, like I said, to me is a security concern. And I would like for you guys to reconsider and look at all the possibilities, but definitely, most than anything, the security in mind of our children, because there is a school there, you know, and that, again, concerns me.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Please be sure to sign in. Thank you. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, not hearing anyone. Development Services, anything further?
I just wanted to make sure you have a copy of the revised staff report.
I have a copy of the revised staff
Great,
report,
thank
yes. Thank you. All right, applicant?
Yes, I was unaware that we had opposition, or I would have loved a chance to speak about this beforehand, but I will after this as well. The proposed use is not intended for rentals. This is a product by Florida Home Partnership, formerly Homes for Hillsborough. Their goal is to place families that are below means into homes that they couldn't afford otherwise. So there's no intention for these to be rentals, commercials, anything of the sort. It's intended to be for families. So, and I would note that we've agreed with staff's recommendation for a larger setback to the south.
All right. Just to clarify, you said they're not intended to be rentals, and are they in, these are for sale homes, is that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. That closes the hearing on rezoning PD 23-0408.
Our next item is item D6, PD 23-0511. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from AR to PD. Chris Greenlenard with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation. And I did want to note that this is being heard with a comprehensive plan amendment. So this will be heard at the August 12th BOCC CPA meeting. Again, that is October 12th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, applicant.
Thank you. Good evening, hearing officer. My name is Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. We have a PowerPoint for you. Is that up for you?
Yes, it is.
This is the Riverview Retirement Residence. I have with me this evening Mrs. Christy Nesnansky. Christy has flown cross-country from the West Coast to be here this evening to speak with you, and she'll make some comments in a few minutes. Right up front, Development Services does support, noting there's appropriate buffering and screening, and rezoning for assisted living facility use would be consistent with the existing zoning pattern in the area. So to orient you to the site and the proposed use, we are in the South County Riverview area, located on Big Bend Road. You can see the site location there in yellow, and you'll note that there are some significant uses in the immediate area. The Warren Hope Dawson Elementary School is virtually abutting the site. The Goddard School, which is a private school, and most importantly, the Triple Creek PD Village Center and Amenity Center is immediately in the immediate vicinity. And just to highlight that, the significant uses that are right in the immediate vicinity. The issue is rezoning from AR to PD. As Ms. Heinrich said, there is an appropriate or a companion comp plan amendment with it. A 170-bed life care treatment center with 2 manager units on 10 acres, commonly referred to as an adult living facility. These are uses for people who are still ambulatory but in need of support. Private dining rooms and a dining hall for all meals are provided. For independent living, for provide services and support, security, transportation, community, and friendship for the facility. Some primary points in point. Number 1, we're providing bigger setbacks, less height, and bigger buffers than what would be allowed. This is a quiet use, very quiet use with low trips as a congregate senior housing use, no odors, low impact, and it's walkable. Again, the village center is right next door. Even the code recognizes 2.5 residents equals 1 dwelling unit. There's no similar use in the vicinity. The abutting approved uses are commercial and suburban residential. And the future land use category itself would permit 105,000 square feet of commercial permissible. Provides a much needed housing type. There are no other similar senior housing programs in the area, and this is where we want to keep as a beautiful, successful facility as they have great experience for our fathers, grandfathers, mothers, and grandmothers in the community, to stay nearby the family. An important comp plan policy, Objective 1.6, specifically notes to provide housing opportunities for the older population and to promote and prioritize senior housing and opportunities to age in place. Those are 2 critical plan policies that you do not see presented from the Planning Commission. This is a conceptual PD plan. Of course, the PD plan is in the record, but they give you a quick image of how the plan is laid out. But more importantly, showing that the structure setbacks are significant and really tremendous setback from the property boundaries with parking and landscaping and buffers. More on the proposed use. Christy will speak for a few minutes and walk you through that. Christy, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Christina Znansky. My address is 2260 McGilchrist Street, Southeast, Salem, Oregon, 97302. And I'm here on behalf of Hawthorne. And the principals of our company have a 40-year history in senior housing development. We currently have 90 buildings in operation in the United States. And one of the unique things about our company is we are a developer, we are also a construction company, and we are ultimately also the operator. So we don't build them and sell them, we build them, we develop them, we keep them. So within Florida, we have a long history. We have 7 buildings currently in Florida right now. Our most recent building was actually in Valrico in Hillsborough County, so we went through this process recently. It opened in July of 2022, and it was at full occupancy within 6 months. So we know that there's an unmet need. So that's one of the reasons why we found this location in Riverview. There's Valrico, it's open now. It's also a 3-story. 3-story is what we're proposing here as well. It was also adjacent and nearby single-family residential.
So the, just going back to your pictures there, the proposed development in this location will be something similar to this?
Yes, the same, exact same number of units and the same operations.
Okay.
So our use. So we are Hawthorne Senior Living. It's congregate senior housing. Our average resident age is 84 right now. Our target market is late 70s, early 80s. And our residents tend to be single. They're currently living in your community by themselves. And it's time for them to look for a supportive environment. Most of them are at an age when it's time to give up the car keys, it's time to let someone else cook your food and scrub your bathroom floors. And that's what we provide along with community. Oh, and just to note, per the Hillsborough County Code, it's considered a life care treatment facility. There's a lot of nuances in senior housing, so the names change. So I just wanted to clarify that.
What's different about this that makes it a life care treatment facility in this case?
The zoning code in Hillsborough County.
Okay. All right.
The building isn't any different, and our last building was called that here as well. The labels based on how our use
I see.
operates changes depending on the jurisdiction.
I understand. Thank you.
So what we provide for our residents are private suites with kitchenettes. They do not have full kitchens. They do not have stoves or ranges, but they have a 3/4 fridge and a small sink. It gives them a place to have snacks and coffee in the morning and a semblance of independence. But ultimately, they're getting 3 full meals a day, served restaurant style in a central dining room. We provide 3 different studio, 1-bedroom, 2 bedrooms, weekly housekeeping and linen service, and we also have on-site management that's available 24 hours a day. About 30% of our building is common shared space for all residents. We have a movie theater, a beauty salon, a gym, a chapel. We really are a community, senior center within the building because the goal is to get our residents out of their rooms and into the shared space. Again, on-site management, we provide a 15-passenger luxury van for transportation to take residents to doctor's appointments and shopping. It also reduces traffic volumes and encourages our residents to give up those car keys. All of these services and all utilities are provided in one monthly rent. There is not a big buy-in. You don't have to sell your house and give us all your money. It's just a monthly lease like you would at an apartment. And again, traffic. We provide van transportation for residents' use. We have basic deliveries, food deliveries, mail, UPS, residents and daily visitors. But ultimately, our traffic volumes are very low, especially during peak hours, because that's when we serve our meals. So all our employees and all of our residents are already in our building. And so we have our peak hour trips up there. It made us exempt from a TIA, so we didn't have to do that full analysis because our traffic is so low.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Looking at zoning issues, again, comp plan policies are directive to this use. Zoning is AR, and it is surrounded by the Triple Village PD, as I've shown you. Future land use categories RP2, which allows residential, suburban scale commercial, and commercial, community commercial, office uses, multi-purpose, and clustered mixed-use projects under the comp plan allows 105,000 square feet of commercial. We are located in the mixed-use district of the Riverview Community Plan. In terms of the off-site buffering to single family, there is a 60-foot, approximate 60-foot strip of Hillsborough County public land against the single family. On the one side there, you can see the green stripe, which I note the 60 feet MOL. There's also stormwater buffering on the north, and there's buffering that's provided around the site that we provide in regard to the other frontages. Directly next door on the Triple Creek Village Center PD is permitted for office, commercial at 4-story, multifamily at 3-story. Those uses, again, approved directly abutting this site. And even looking beyond the institutional uses that I've shown you, the commercial uses, under the Triple Creek Planned Village, the allowance would be for 4 to 20 units per acre in that village node. And again, allowing other commercial and commercial uses in that area. In terms of the comprehensive plan and the community plan, look at goal 1.1, support a range of housing options to affordably meet the needs of current future residents. Goal 1, achieve better design and densities that are compatible with Riverview's vision. Mixed use, commercial, residential, promote diversity in housing and style. Those are the same categories. Achieve mixed use, commercial, residential, promote diversity in housing style. Goal 2 of the Riverview community plan, focus and direct development toward walkable mixed-use town center locations, which I've shown you the town center is right next door, throughout the community while respecting existing land use. We think it's important to mention the Planning Commission report. The Planning Commission does a great job, but we do have a difference of opinion and feel that they may have overlooked a couple points. But when they look at the density and intensity, and that they look at the massing and scale and gradual transition between uses and the established character, we feel that we've already addressed those in the sense that there are no single-family uses directly adjacent, which the Planning Commission report does state. We've shown that there is quite a buffer, let alone the great distance on that side that we're providing by our PD plan. The Riverview Community Plan specifically designates us in a mixed-use area, which we think is a point that the Planning Commission may have overlooked as well. And in regard to the Triple Creek Village, the density and multifamily standards are high density and are intensive. We feel the Planning Commission, again, with respect, did not consider those as they should have been. And in regard to those, again, the Village Center allowed uses and intensity, those were not looked at, we feel, with respect to the Planning Commission, as they exist and as they should be considered with this use. So in summary, again, the DSD supports, it's quiet use, low trips, walkable, very much needed. Comprehensive plan policy support, located in the Riverview mixed-use area, and great buffering and screening is provided. I will let you know that we did notice 35 persons. I checked just before this hearing, and there were no letters or emails in objection on the record. And with that, I would ask Christy, with a few more minutes left, is there any other comments you'd like to make, and you have something to put in the record?
And I have a couple of questions for you too, Mr. Pressman.
Do you have any comments you want to make?
I was just going to say, so in our analysis and the back and forth with Planning Commission, I did want to enter into the record because we reference it, the original Triple Creek PD, we have a hard copy of it, as well as the amended PD from 2020 and the conditions of approval. We reference them both in our narrative and also in the PowerPoint, so I wanted to enter hard copies.
And this is the, which PD is this?
So the site is surrounded on 3 sides by the Triple Creek PD.
Okay.
So when we were looking at the site about how, what size the building should be, what the setback should be, the best example to use was the Triple Creek PD, which we are directly adjacent to on 3 sides. So we provide, for example, the same 50-foot buffer that they had between the PD and the Tropical Acres neighborhood. We far exceed all of their setback and buffer standards, and we have actually reduced our height from what is allowed directly adjacent to us.
Okay, what is the height of your buildings? And I know you probably mentioned it.
So we've limited it, it's in the staff report, but we've limited it to 3 stories and 43 feet 6 inches.
Okay. And so the Triple Creek is on the north, the east, and the south, and then on the west, that's Tropical Acres?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, and I also have a hard copy of the narrative, which kind of does a good job, in my opinion, of analyzing the existing character of the area in regards to our project.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Pressman, my question's for you. As you know, in a rezoning, it's the applicant's burden to demonstrate consistency with the comprehensive plan. Mm-hmm. And right now you have a finding of inconsistency by the Planning Commission staff. So your testimony, I believe, covered compatibility and consistency and those things. Would you please put your credentials on the record? Tell me, how can I consider your testimony competent substantial evidence? What are your credentials?
I'm happy to answer that, but I think you can also look at the zoning report, which also indicates or addressing those issues. Myself, I'm not a credited planner. I've been handling zoning cases for 25 years. I've been appointed by 2 Florida governors, served on the Southwest Florida Water Management District Governing Board. I served 1 year as chairman of the Southwest Florida Water Governing Board. I was also appointed by one of the governors to the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, which I served on for about 8 or 9 years. I've also been appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, Hillsborough Board of County Commissioners, to the Code Enforcement Board, which I served on a number of years. I've been appointed by the Pinellas County Commissioners to the Charter Review Board, which I served on for 1 session. And I was recently appointed by the Mayor of St. Pete, Ken Welch, to the Community Planning and Historic Preservation Board.
All right.
So my experience is in practical matters, and Christy may want to put that in the record.
And one more question for you. So then, in your opinion, in looking at the proposed development, the site, the PD site plan, and the surrounding uses, is it your opinion that that the applicant has met the compatibility concerns and so forth with the design, the buffers and setbacks and so forth?
Yes, absolutely. I will tell you that we worked over the period of many months on those issues, and what you see before you is a plan that I think does everything it can and exceeds anyone's expectations for compatibility and consistency, yes.
All right, and thank you.
Thank you. Christy, did you want to?
If I may,
Please.
so I prepared the analysis on behalf of Hawthorne, and my experience with Hawthorne, I've been handling their land use and entitlements throughout the country for the last 10 years. And the 5 years before that, I did land use and entitlements for apartments and commercial projects as well. So I have 15 years of experience. I'm not a certified land planner, but I've worked with planning commissions and zoning offices all over the country. Okay. And I will say, if I can, about the site plan, we paid a lot of attention to what is already occurring in the Triple Creek area, as well as what's planned for the future. So things like our trash enclosure and our delivery areas are on the front of the building facing the future commercial projects. Our smallest setback, which is still 60 feet, is along the commercial side of the property. And any future building on that piece of land has a 0-foot setback, for example. And we made sure that our stormwater management, our wetland area was preserved, and our buffers were maintained on the other 3 sides where there's any potential impact on single family.
Thank you. And either one of you, Mr. Pressman, or what is the proposed use on the east, the adjacent property on the east?
The triangular piece of property?
Yes.
So there's a lot of different options. So the village center within the Triple Creek PD is allowed a variety of uses, everything from a 4-story hotel to 3 stories of multifamily, high density, as well as commercial and office. And I believe it's up to 170,000 square feet, but that's within the whole village center, not necessarily just that one triangular parcel.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't have any more questions for you.
We appreciate your time and attention, appreciate the staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure both of you sign in with the clerk. Development Services.
Good evening again. Chris Grellenard, planner with Development Services. I submitted a revised staff report.
I have your revised staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant is proposing to rezone from the existing AR to agricultural rural to PD 23-0511. The approximate 10-acre vacant parcel is zoned agricultural rural. The subject property is located in the general location of the intersection of Flamenco Drive and Triple Creek Boulevard. The applicant proposes to develop a 170-bed life care treatment facility with 2 manager units. The site was within the rural service area. However, it's within the RP2 future land use classification, which provides that for planned villages developed in accordance with the planned villages regulations in the LDC allowance for connection to public utilities. The development to the northeast and west is within a planned village and is served by public utilities. The area consists of residential and institutional uses. To the north, the subject property is adjacent to a stormwater pond and a common area, zoned PD. To the south, the subject property is adjacent to a common area, zoned PD. To the east, the subject property is adjacent to a vacant parcel, also zoned PD, with a mixed use, which was described previously. To the west, the subject parcel is adjacent to a single-family residential zoned AS1. In close vicinity is an elementary school and the Triple Creek Master Plan community. The subject property is designated residential planned 2 on the future land use map. Pardon. A concurrent comprehensive plan amendment, HC CPA 23-07, which requests the future land use designation change from residential plan 2 to residential 9, is also proposed, and the request is subject to approval of the comprehensive plan amendment. The subject parcel is in the middle of residential, both large lot rural and master plan single family residential. Institutional uses and potential mixed uses are in the vicinity to the east. The applicant has provided appropriate buffering and screening to residential according to the Land Development Code requirements in section 6.06.06. Therefore, Development Services, we find the rezoning of the subject parcel from AR to PD with life care treatment facility use would be consistent with the existing zoning pattern of the area. Based on the proposed residential 9 future land use classification approval, the surrounding zoning and development pattern, and the proposed uses for the planned development district, staff finds the request approvable, subject to the proposed conditions. Again, I want to reiterate that our approval is subject to the amendment being also approved.
I understand. So let me just ask the Development Services staff then, in the staff's opinion, didn't have concerns about compatibility with the adjacent residential uses. Was that based on the site plan providing those buffers around to the west and the north and south?
Yes, we believe with the buffering that's provided and that's already there, and with the surrounding uses, the institutional uses, I mean, the mixed use to the east, I mean, we find that sufficient.
Okay.
Again, to the approval of the proposed amendment that's going to be heard.
Enlighten me, please, on, and I see the staff report, the big change I see was just changing the wording from
Yes.
assisted living facility to life care treatment facility.
Yes,
What
yes.
is the difference from?
Well, I have the code right here. It's, Michelle, if you want to.
Sure.
Again.
Primarily, the difference between the two is the life care treatment facility is not licensed through the state, and their conversion is 2.5 beds equals 1 unit, whereas the community residential homes are done through the state certification, and their conversion is 5 beds equals 1 dwelling unit.
Okay, so it's a big difference with the density or the number of units or residents. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission.
Good evening, Bryce Faringer, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is in the residential planned 2 future land use category. It is in the rural area and is located within the limits of the Riverview and South Shore area-wide systems community plans. The subject site's future land use category is currently pending change by HC CPA 23-07, which is a comprehensive plan amendment that would change the site's designation to residential 9. This plan development is considered concurrent and dependent on the approval of HC CPA 23-07 by the Board of County Commissioners. The subject site is surrounded by the residential planned 2 future land use designation. The site is vacant and surrounding uses include single-family residential on all sides, Warren Hope Dawson Elementary School, Anna Goddard School Child Care Center to the northeast, and Triple Creek Amenity Center to the southeast of the site. The subject site is in the rural area, which is intended for long-term agricultural uses and large lot, low-density rural residential uses which can exist without the threat of urban or suburban encroachment. The proposed density of 170 beds with 2 manager units does not meet the intent of Objective 4 and Policy 4.1 in the future land use element of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan relating to density in the rural area. The intent of the adopted RP2 future land use category is to designate areas that are suited for agricultural development in the immediate horizon of the plan, but may be suitable for planned villages as described in the plan in order to avoid a pattern of single-dimensional developments that could create urban sprawl. The 170-bed assisted living facility would change the nature of the development pattern from a rural to medium residential density. Therefore, the proposal is inconsistent with the intent of Policy 1.4, Objective 8, and Policy 8.1 of the future land use element. The proposed scale of 170 beds does not meet the intent of Objective 16 and associated policies relating to neighborhood protection. Although the development provides stormwater retention to the north as a buffer and many amenities for the residents such as garages, a common recreation area, and pool, Planning Commission staff feels that the mass and scale of the development is incompatible with the surrounding single-family residential uses. The site is within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan. It is in the mixed-use area on the Riverview District Concept Map, which promotes diversity in housing type and style to counter generic subdivision appearances. Although the proposal provides an attractive housing type that does not currently exist in that area, the scale at which it is proposed is not compatible and does not provide a transition to existing adjacent land uses. There are no applicable policies in the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan relating to this request. Based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, so I guess as I understand it from your analysis, the big concern is the density or the density, but the scale of the buildings and so forth?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And just to provide additional context, the Plan Amendment HC CPA 2307, it did go before the Planning Commission and was found inconsistent.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? Do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? I do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Applicant?
Thank you, Madam Hearing Master and staff members. I think it's important to note that we had not one but 2 community meetings. We noticed 35 persons, and of course, there's been big yellow signs out on the site for quite some time. So with all due respect to the Planning Commission, when they raise concerns about neighborhood protection, there is absolutely zero opposition to this request. And there's quite a number of comp plan policies that I've already presented that were not presented by the Planning Commission, again, which is critically Objective 1.6, which is specific to provide housing opportunities for the older population. 1.6.1.5, promote, prioritize senior housing and opportunities to age in place. There's 4 or 5, maybe even 6 policies as well that I submitted. I won't reread them. But I think there's a balance between the policies the Planning Commission is presenting and others that haven't been presented to you. Now, along with that point is that this is an infill site. I believe, at least it's my opinion, the Planning Commission report talks about the expansion of commercial uses or uses in this area, which they characterize, or I believe they characterize as rural. As we've shown you, it's literally a stone's throw from the elementary school, Goddard School, and the downtown, or not downtown, but the village center of the Triple Creek. So we don't agree with that point, but again, with all due respect, in terms of the immediate uses and the approved uses. So in regard to the points of Planning Commission, I believe that those address those. Chris, did you want to make a point? And thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. I just had 2 points to make. I think one, if you look at the staff report and you even just look at the future land use map, you can see the way the area around this site has developed. These are not rural lots. These are suburban. There's lots of open space and ponds, which we have mimicked on our property. But I think if you look at the way the lots have been laid out, this isn't a rural community. I 100% understand how staff would look at it by the book and think it's not compatible. But I think if you look at the existing development and the allowed uses that neighbor this property, that we are compatible, that we are a great transition from the tropical acres to future commercial development that could be up to 4 stories, and we're 3 stories. It's a perfect transition across the development. The other thing that I think is important is when Planning Commission voted on the future land use amendment, they had no idea what was being presented. They were only looking at a density change from RP2 to R9. They weren't looking at this particular project. So when they voted it down, it wasn't they were voting down this project. They were just voting that it was inconsistent just from density.
And what Christy is referring to is the Planning Commission Board vote. And one last point is the Transportation Department of the county has reviewed this and, of course, indicate no opposition or no concerns on the issue. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I did understand that you were talking about the Planning Commissioner's vote.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All right. That closes the hearing on rezoning PD 23-0511, and that concludes our zoning hearing master meeting for today.